wait and see. Because so often in this world, Hare Krishna, Prabhu,
Okay.
Dandavat, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
So often in this world, we become caught up in the situation of the present, not realizing that everything is transitory. As Krishna says in the Gita, Matraspasas tukuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkada. Happiness and distress, they come and go like winter and summer. What are the second two lines? Matraspasas tukuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tam satikshas bharata. Learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So Gurudev would say, wait and see. Tolerate the present situation, because it's guaranteed to change. Nothing ever stays permanent in this world. This Maya Shakti, this world we live in, cannot stay permanent. It does not have Sat. This quality of Sat, meaning truth or permanence, eternality, Sat. This world is Asat, not true. It is true to the world of the sensual experience, but the notion that it can produce any long-term permanent satisfaction, that's not true. That's Asat. And that is known as Maya, this notion that you can find some kind of satisfaction of the self. Atmaram means self-satisfied. It's not possible in this world of Maya, because it's constantly changing. And it is fundamentally different from the nature of the Atma. The Atma is Sat, and this world is Asat. So you cannot fit a square peg into a round hole. The soul cannot enjoy it in something that is constitutionally different to itself. They do not fit together. But once in the Mahabharata, we have the story of Dharmaraj, Yamaraj. Actually, Dharmaraj is also Yudhisthira, is known as Dharmaraj. But Yudhisthira is a son of Kunti, and who's the Yudhisthira's father? Quiz time. Who's Yudhisthira's father? Yamaraj. Yamaraj is Yudhisthira's father. So Kunti, she has sons with 5 different devas, right? First Surya, then Dharmaraj, and then Arjuna's father. Bhimsen's father is Vayu, and then Arjuna's father is Indra. Is that correct? Arjuna's father is Indra? Yes. And then we have Sahadev and Nakul, and their father is the Ashwin Kumars. Is that correct? That's why they're twins. So, when in the Mahabharata we have the story of Yudhisthira being questioned by Dharmaraj, his father. And one of those questions is, he's asking them, tell me, what is the wonder? What is the surprising thing about this world? And Yudhisthira answers, well, he says, ahanyahani bhutani gashyanti yamamandiram seshaha stavaram ishyanti kim ascharyam ataparam. Which means that the surprising thing, the wonder, is that all around us, beings are dying. Creatures are being born and dying. For instance, we might go out to the street lamp one evening and you see a lot of flies or insects buzzing around the street lamp. You'll go out there the next morning, they might be dead on the ground. Very likely. Whereas if you were to ask them, maybe during their life, they would be very busily engaged in doing whatever they do. Eating, sleeping, reproducing, and fighting for their right to do those things. Caught up in their little life, considering it very important. But it's over just like that. So for beings that we operate in a different time realm to the insect buzzing around the light. But subjectively to them, they've lived a long, full life. But to us, with more awakened consciousness, we look at them and we go, wow, it's over so quickly. So beings that live in different time realms, different levels of reality. We have Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Mahajana, Tapa, Satya. So for instance, Brahmaloka, Brahma's day, one day is 4.32 billion years. One day. So do you think he looks at our life of 75 years? We're like the insect, just relative to that. As the consciousness develops, we see the increasing futility of life, or the increasing transitory, flickering nature of life in this world. As our consciousness moves through these levels. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Mahaprabhu was instructing Rupa Goswami, who's the head of our sampradaya, he said to him that as you cultivate bhakti, your consciousness, it goes up through Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Mahajana, Tapa, Satya, Brahmaloka, Then it goes out of the material universe into the Brahman, Para-Brahma, and then Paravyoma, beyond Brahman, the world of Bhakti and Lila. So it goes up through all these stages of consciousness, and as it rises up, you begin to prioritize your life. You begin to see what is worth doing, what is not worth doing, because you have a greater view, an eagle-eyed view. Imagine the view of Brahma, eagle-eyed. He can see everything below him. And here we are, like these little insects that we see under the street light. So from an enlightened perspective, we begin to see with maturity all of the other activities in the world as like the play of insects under the street light, or like the play of children in the sandpit. They're taking it so important, but it only lasts a certain amount of time. There's laughter, there's tears, there's the start of the games, and then there's the end of the games, just like life in this world. So spiritual life, spiritual practice, sadhana bhakti, gives a mature, eagle-eyed perspective. And you begin to prioritize, you see what's actually real. You begin to align with the sat and not the asat. With Krishna, not with Maya. So Dharmaraj, he asks Yudhisthira, what is the wonder? And Yudhisthira says, all around us there's this flickering. There's these insects coming and going, being born and dying. Mrityu Loka, the place of death. This is what is known as this place, Mrityu Loka. Everything is constantly dying, being recycled. Everything is recycled. Dying and being born, recycled again and again and again. Yet people are trying to find permanence. Even though as far back in history as you can go, the same thing has happened. And we can postulate that the same thing is going to continue to happen. No one can do anything about it. And yet people still believe that for them it's going to be different. For them we can make something permanent. Maybe just around the corner, but it's going to happen. It's not a mirage. We're going to find that body of water and quench our thirst. This is illusion, this is Maya. So Yudhisthira answers to his father, he says, this is the wonder. This is the crazy thing. Like people say, that's just mad. Like that's crazy how people can. So he says, it's like almost asking him, what is the crazy thing here? What is crazy about this place? He says, this is crazy. That forever, time immemorial, this has happened. And forever into the future it's going to happen. Yet people right now today think it's not going to happen to them. Or maybe at best, you ask them and they'll say theoretically, yes, it's going to happen, and that's it. They don't give it any further thought. Which means give it some token acknowledgement, but there's not really any belief in it. They're acting. Their actions, which speak louder than their words, say that they're not actually thinking about it, even though it's all around them and has been forever and will be into the future. So Yudhisthira says, this is the crazy thing. Ahanyahani bhutani gashanti yama mandiram. Yama mandiram means the house of Yama. Yama is the Lord of Death, and he's speaking to Yamaraj. And he's saying, everyone is living in your house, so to speak, metaphorically. Say everyone is living in the house of death, yet they think that there's going to be some permanence here. And they're acting based on this false notion. He goes, this is the crazy thing. So what to do about it is the next question. To realize a sense, to arrive at a place of disillusionment with what is not good for us, that's a healthy place. Like a man in a prison. You could say, oh, he's fortunate if he has a good time in the prison. He doesn't get beaten up or worse. You could say that's lucky. But it's not lucky if he gets too comfortable there, and it's not a deterrent to those activities that put him there in the first place. So someone who's comfortable in an imperfect environment, are they lucky or unlucky? Someone with lots of money, they're able to enjoy in this one life, relatively speaking. Are they lucky or unlucky? They're like the man who's too comfortable in the prison. They're not doing anything about their long-term welfare. Short-term, he's okay in the prison, but long-term, he's not being reformed. So what to do about the glamour that keeps us feeling comfortable in this flickering world of death? What to do about it? You know Shankaracharya, of course. Everyone knows Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya. Well, he wrote a famous poem called Moha Mudgara Stotram. Moha, of course, means illusion. Or infatuation. The feeling that you're obsessed with something. You're buying into it wholesale. You're infatuated with it. Moha, sometimes it's translated as delusion. But you get the idea. That you're buying into, subscribing completely to something that's false. Moha. Mudgara, a hammer, a mallet. Moha mudgara. So it means a stotram is a poem, a set of verses. Moha mudgara stotram. The set of verses that are the hammer for smashing moha, for smashing illusion. This is one of Shankaracharya's compositions. And he starts it by saying, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Yes, you know the verse. Yeah, very famous verse. So it's, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Your intellect is not going to save you. And in fact, he says, grammar is not going to save you. Grammar meaning like a grammar metaphor for your skills, whatever you have, your learning, what you accumulate in this life. It's not going to save you. He is walking through, the context, the history of it is that he's walking through Varanasi. And he sees one pandit, he's sitting there. And he's reciting Panini's rules of Vyakarana, grammar. He's reciting them over and over again, like memorizing these grammatic tables. So some of these people have great feats of memory, great abilities of memory. So he's reciting them, all these endless, increasingly complex rules of grammar sitting there. Wah, 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 wah. And Shankaracharya is walking past and he sees him and he goes, what a poor guy. Not a loser so much, but what a, the guy is so caught up in these grammatical rules and the power of his memory and to recite these complex rules of Panini's grammar. And inspired by that, he tells this man, your grammar is not going to save you. It's not going to save you. And by extension, with these slokas, we have to understand the principle of the sloka, not just the literal translation. That won't do. Because these slokas are deep with meaning, and they need to be unpacked. So, Vyakarana, grammar, is one of the Vedanga, right? So also you have, what else do you have? Nirukta and etymology, kalpa, ritual, Jyotish, astrology, these Vedangas. So essentially he's saying, all of this Vedic knowledge won't save you. He's saying, worship Govinda. Forget about what's going on in your head. Forget about trying to interpret the Vedas. Go through a process of surrender to Govinda. That will save you. And then, from this surge of inspiration, he composes the rest of the Moha Mudgara Stotra. And there's one verse which aligns a little with Yudhishthira's answer to his father. And it is, he says, Shankaracharya says, young people, kids, we observe the children and they're playing games, right? They're involved in frivolity. And then when they grow a little, teenagers, young people, what are they involved in? Romance. Boys are thinking about girls are thinking about boys, right? That's what really fuels them. So as children they're playing. As young people they're involved in the love game, the dating game. And it's different in various societies. In Indian society this is managed differently than in the West, as you guys know. But nonetheless, this is what's operational at that time of life. And then he says, fast forward a little, and the body's now old. There's no more frivolous games. There's no more dating game. The thrill of what lies ahead for you in your life is all gone. And now you're wondering about your health. You're trying to preserve your health. And you're wondering about when you might die. This is the reality of it. And he says, but even given this, no one is thinking about the purpose of it all. Still no one is thinking about the purpose of it all. So it's thematically the same as Yudhishthira answering his father, saying, all this death is coming and going, but no one's thinking about it. No one is thinking about it. And that's the tragic nature of it. So when a Vaishnava sees this situation, when a devotee of Krishna, when they see this situation, they feel sad. Because they realize that although these people are searching for ecstasy, they're searching for anandam, they're not getting it. And if they continue on the same trajectory, they won't get it. And so the Vaishnava, out of compassion, they establish temples, they establish centers, they establish organizations so that people can get together and finally liberate themselves from this wild goose chase. That is the whole purpose of it. And that's the purpose of this center here. That is what we are doing here. We are in line, we're pursuing this process of evolving our consciousness, raising our consciousness through these levels of reality and into the world of bhakti. That's what it's about. To make something of this human form of life. And it's a precious human form of life. Shastra tells us that in the upper planetary systems, which there are 7, as we have in the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuva Swa, we have Mahajana Tapasatya. And below we have the Tala. Patala, Sutala, Tala, 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 etc. These Tala lokas, subterranean, below. 14 in total. And right in the middle is Bhumandala, the earth planet. Right in the middle. And this is the only place where karma is created. Think about it. All other places, karma is being lived out. You don't create karma. If you worship the devas and you get the blessings of the devas, where do you go after you die? Swargaloka? To the place of the devas? How long do they live?
Just a few days.
Maybe one day of Brahma. Every day of Brahma there is a pralaya, destruction. Up to 2 levels, up to level 5.
Yes.
Janaloka, up to that level. So, maximum they might live a day of Brahma. But still, one day of Brahma, and then there needs to be a return. If the karma accrued, once it expires, then you're back to square one. Or if someone commits a lot of transgressions, causes pain to many other living entities, then where do they go? Swargaloka? No, the other way. Down somewhere. You know, the Bhagavad Purana contains some quite vivid descriptions of where people can end up. Extreme. You may take it as symbolic if you like, if you need to understand these things. If the literal idea of it freaks you out too much. But the idea of the Bhagavad Purana in the 5th canto, and then you fast forward another 5 cantos and you get to the 10th canto, we have 2 extremes here. One is the topmost level of reality and one is the gata. So you can find yourself in both places. And what determines where you go, up or down, is this life here on earth. Because this is where you're generating your karma. This is where you're creating your fate. Manifesting your destiny, not just in this life, but in lives going forward. So that is why, repeatedly, in the Shastra, we are implored, exhorted to capitalize on the human opportunity. This life, to capitalize on that, to make the best of it. Not to waste it. Something precious, don't waste it. It's like getting a lot of money and then frittering it away. You can do so much good stuff with a lot of money. Instead it's frittered away. But 99.99% of people have this wealth. And they're frittering it away. Mainly out of ignorance. They're not aware of the wealth. They're caught up in the maya. So you can go up or down. So then when one realizes the potential, the human potential, and what direction to take, they may say, well, what is the first step? How do we do this? We have such potential. But where to go, what to do? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a young man, he went to East Bengal, Bangladesh. And there he met one man named Tapan Mishra. Tapan Mishra was a great scholar. And he says to Mahaprabhu, I've read all the Shastra, all of the Vedas. all the itihasas, right? Mahabharata, Ramayana, all the Puranas, 18 Puranas, all of the Upanishads, 108 Upanishads. I've gone through it all, and I'm confused. He says, I'm not enlightened. There's so many different opinions in there. Right? Shankara's Vedanta is different to Kapil's Shankya, Patanjali's Yoga, Kannada's Vaisheshika. They're all different. What do you do? Where do you start? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells them, you don't need to worry so much about the Veda in Kali Yuga. He says you chant Hare Krishna. You take Krishna Nam. This is the way. Bhaja Govinda, in Shankaracharya's words. You take Krishna Nam and you progress from there. He tells them, go to Varanasi. I will meet you at a later date in Varanasi. And so he does, on his way to Vrindavan, on his way back from Vrindavan. So, you may go, what is the first step? You may look at the Veda. What path do you follow? In Kali Yuga, what path do you follow? In Satya Yuga, people could meditate. Dhyan. They could sit and meditate. They had the capacity to do that. In Kali Yuga, not so much. Not so much. Particularly in the West, particularly if you have responsibilities. Satya Yuga, that was the process. It's known as Yuga Dharma. Dharma meaning the religious, in this context, the religious process for the Yuga, for the Satya epoch. Treta Yuga, it is... Treta Yuga is fire worship. Anjali Didi, Hare Krishna.
It's so late. I've been up since 4 o'clock. I've been waiting to get here. They were very late today. I'm so
Better late
sorry.
than never.
I sit down now. I can't believe. Anyway, we made it. Better late.
Better late than never, yes. Your auspicious arrival is welcome anytime. So we'll just continue. We're going to just have a short talk today, so we'll finish up soon. We're talking about the processes for the ages. What to do if one becomes thoroughly aware of the futility of trying to find some kind of permanent, some kind of perfection in the Maya, in the world of Maya. What is the first step to take? So I'm saying in Satya Yuga, what was done in Satya Yuga is different than what should be done today. So Satya Yuga is meditation. People could meditate. They could have darshan of the Paramatma. These days, no. Not really. So in Treta Yuga, Satya Treta is fire worship, yajna. The yogi, they would have the fire in front of them and they would perform sacrifices, yajna, in the fire, and the worship of the fire worship, would transform their consciousness. And in Dwapara Yuga is Archa Vigraha, the worship of the deity. It's still done. We still practice it. This is Archa Vigraha. And so it's still helpful, but it is not the prime process. It is a process that was most effective in the previous age. For Kali Yuga, what is the best process? It is not meditation. It is not homa, yajna. It is not puja, archan, none of these things. Bhagavatam says, Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti heko mahan gunaha kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Kalir dosha. Dosha is a what? Tell us what a dosha is. A fault, right? Or an iniquity.
The Tulsidas is saying the same thing in the Ramayana.
Ah, very good. Excellent. Yes, the message is one.
You don't need to yajna, you don't need to the dhyana, you don't need to the just worship. just kirtan, the name, take the name 24
Yes.
hours, Lord Krishna, Lord Rama.
Very good. Absolutely. Yes, Tulsidas, the Ramananda Sampradaya. Yes. And this is a branch, like an offshoot of the Sri Sampradaya from Ramanujacharya. Yeah, very nice. I have Tulsidas's book, Ram Agya Prashna. Have you heard of this book?
Yes.
It's the oracle of Ram. Ram Agya Prashna. When Tulsidas he was living in Varanasi also. We're talking a lot about Varanasi today. Tapan Mishra, Shankaracharya, and now Tulsidas.
Because Varanasi is a very famous city.
Of course it
for
is.
The scholars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a famous place of knowledge.
These days also the people who learn the Sanskrit grammar or who they want to become a scholar in grammar or Mimamsa in Shastra, they studied there.
Yes, Benares Hindu University.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
It's a
Tulsi...
organization as well, Vishwa Hindu Parishad.
Is that another university?
If you want to become a Jagat Guru, you have to do the
Oh, very nice.
argument.
Yes.
You have to do the argument on the Vedas, on the Shastras.
Yes.
And you can get a
Jagat Guru stamp. And they will make also pranam mantra for you, yes? Nama Om, this such and... Okay. Anyway, that sounds interesting. But, so Tulsidas, this is just an anecdote. Tulsidas is living in Varanasi regarding the Ram Agya Prashna. He's living in Varanasi. And there is one Jyotishi, astrologer, who he is friends with. He sees him every day on the bank of the Ganga when they're doing their morning bathing and puja. And so he's speaking to his friend in the morning. His friend is very depressed one morning. Not depressed, but anxious. He cannot focus on his morning rituals. He's anxious. And so Tulsidas inquires, what is wrong? What's happening? And he said, well, yesterday evening, an official, a messenger from the king, he visited me. And he informed me that the king's son and a group of other men from the palace had gone on a hunting expedition. And news had come back that one of them had been killed in an accident, or perhaps by a wild animal. One of the members of the party had died. Now the king was concerned because he had heard someone had died, but he didn't know who it was. It's possible it might have been his son. So in a state of anxiety, he sent one of his officials, he said, go to that Jyotishi and get him to do some calculations to find out if my son is the one who has suffered a fatality. And so that's fair enough. But then the Brahmin said, yes, okay, I'll do my best. But then the king's messenger said to him, but if you get it wrong, the king said he's going to kill you. He's going to take your head. You have 24 hours to get your response, to give your response. But if you're wrong, then that's the end of your, comfy life in Varanasi. So he is in great anxiety. He's got until later that evening. And he's telling this to Tulsidas. He's saying, look, I don't know how to necessarily determine exactly 100% certainty who has died on this hunting trip. There's always some room for error, even if you're very good. He said, I'm not Trikala Gyan. How do I know? So it's causing him great anxiety. His life is on the line. And Tulsidas says to him, well, don't worry, I'm going to help you out. So Tulsidas sits down and he composes this Ram Agya Prajna. 7 chapters with 7 chapters with 7 sections and 7 verses in each section. And all of these verses are to do with themes in the Ramayana. So Ram's birth, the crowning of Ram as the prince as the heir apparent, the banishing of Ram to the forest, right? The kidnapping of Sita, the conquering of Lanka, the return to Ayodhya. All of these themes are covered, and also the sub-themes. They're all covered in these 7 by 7 by 7. 7 chapters, 7 sub-chapters, 7 verses in each sub-chapter. And so he composes this, writes it on the palm leaf manuscript. And later that day he takes it to his friend and he says, this is the oracle of Ram. After you worship, take your bath, you worship Ram, and then you consult this oracle, and the verse you find will give you the answer to your question. Ram Agya Prajna. So his friend, the astrologer, he does this. And it's a very auspicious verse. And he goes, oh, the king's son is fine. And so he tells, the king's messenger comes, what is your answer? And he says, the king's son is alive. He's fine. And he said, all right, well, we'll wait and see. And so it turns out that the king's son returned safely with the other hunting party. Someone else had died. And so then the king rewards him with like a mountain of gold. Makes him very rich overnight. And so your mention of Tulsidas led to this like little tangent. But I have a little copy of Ram Agya Prajna. You can buy it now. And there's a more commercialized version as well. Called Oracle of Ram, with cards and everything. David Frawley. You know the one? Yeah. It's quite good actually. I find it works very well if you approach it properly. Gives the right answer every time. Anyway, Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti heko mahan gunaha. Also endorsed by Goswami Tulsidas. This is a verse from the Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. And it says in Kali Yuga, nidhe rajan, an ocean of Kali dosha nidhe, an ocean of faults. In Kali Yuga, there's an ocean of faults. Right? Just an unlimited pit of faults, iniquities. Asti hiya eka mahan gunaha. There's one great quality. Eka mahan guna. One great quality. Kirtanad eva krishnasya. What does that mean? Tell me. Kirtanad eva krishnasya. Have a guess.
To do kirtan.
Of Krishna. Yes, of course. Kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet gives the supreme result. So even though in Kali Yuga, generally morality is low, happiness is low, intelligence is low, longevity is low, all the good things are low, whereas cheating is high, dishonesty is high, fighting is high, all the bad is up and all the down is down. What is good is seen as bad, and what is bad is seen as good. Everything becomes topsy-turvy. Exploitation, rampant hedonism, good, yes, you're successful. The hoarding of colossal amounts of money while other people are in poverty. It's very successful, man. So what is actually creating imbalance and problems in society is lauded as success. So much fault. So amidst all of this fault, the highest thing is available. Param brajet, mukta sangha param brajet. Krishna Kirtan provides the highest thing. It's like an absolute wholesale amnesty inside an ocean of iniquity, an ocean of faults and flaws. There is one thing that can take one from the very bottom to the very top. Devananda Prabhu ki jai. Krishna Kirtan. And what happens with Krishna Kirtan is that it evokes bhakti in the heart. Bhakti begins to come out of the heart. Shravan Kirtan, hearing and chanting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago, he is the Yuga avatar, the descent for this Yuga. But also this is a special descent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because once in a day of Brahma, once every 4.32 million years, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna himself appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not only to serve as the Yuga avatar, the propagator of the religious practice for the age, but also to distribute Krishna Prem, the highest possible state of spiritual achievement for any consciousness, for any Atma, distributing it quite freely. So even amidst all of this fault, the worst age of all, the highest thing is being made available. It's like someone who has committed the most abominable crime, not just getting an amnesty, but being elevated to a very high position in society. It's kind of unbelievable. But this is what the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. And that is why we worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here, Radha Krishna combined. And his process is Krishna Kirtan, what we were doing just before. We should do some arti now, shall we? Do some arti. Do you have any comments or questions? Elaborations, contributions? Is it too early?
That you always give such a clear understanding with your expression. So you covered everything necessary to cover.
Clear vision.
Huh?
Clear vision.
Yeah, clear vision.
Thank you. Is it too early for arti, or?
I think, is he ready, Joe?
Maybe he's not. We can talk for another few minutes.
I'll see what
He's doing the arti, is he?
Yeah, I'll see what his positions.
Gauranga Mahaprabhu. There's various names for Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya literally means consciousness, like this. Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was born Vishvambara. Vishvambara means the shelter of the universe. The shelter of all living beings, all creatures in the universe. Vishvambara. And when he was born in 1486 in Navadvip, Mayapur, India, on the lunar eclipse, the bank of the Ganga. Born on the lunar eclipse. Shimharasi, Shimhalagna, Uchagrahagan. Shadvarga, Ashtavarga, Sarva Sulakshan. He's born under the sign of Leo, Shimha. You know the sign Leo? Shimhalagna means the ascendant, on the rising sign, on the horizon. Shimhalagna. This is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we read every morning. Shimhalagna, Shimharasi. Rasi means the sign of the moon. Chandra. So the moon was in Leo, and also Leo was the rising sign. Double Leo. Shimharasi, Shimhalagna. Ucha Grahagan. All of the planets were exalted. Right? Yes. Ucha Grahagan. Shadvarga. Shadvarga is a system of establishing strength for the planets. Ashtavarga is a system of establishing strength, and Shadvarga is matching of different charts. Rasi, Navamsa, Dasamsa, Trimsamsa, etc. So the Shadvarga and the Astavarga, all Sarva Sulakshan, all ideal, very, very good. Everything was great. So his father-in-law, his mother's father, was a great astrologer, and he looked at the chart and he said, "This is none other but the Lord himself, Bhagavan, appearing." Can you leave the door open, please? I don't mind a little bit of noise. Rather have the door open. The light. And so he looks at the chart, and then he looks at the child's feet, and there are all the auspicious symbols of Vishnu on the child's feet. The flag and the conch and the club and the lotus. Says, yes, Vishvambara is a great name. But his mother also calls him Nimai for two reasons. So his official name is Vishvambara and his nickname is Nimai. Why? Because previously she had some 8 infant deaths. Just like Devaki, multiple deaths of the children. So she was naturally in anxiety that this would also happen to her son. 8 daughters that died prematurely in the first few days or months or whatever of life. So she names him Nimai, because at that time it was seen that if a child died like that, then it could be the influence of a malevolent spirit, a bhuta, a pisacha, or something. So if you name the child Nimai, then the nature of these malevolent spirits is that they're attracted to something good and beautiful and they want to spoil it. But if you name the child Nimai, what does neem taste like? It's very bitter. It's not nice. You don't sit there and have a delicious bowl of neem. So you name the child Nimai, and all the bad entities are like, oh, no, we don't. Oh, he's already bitter. No, we don't want that. So you name the child Nimai. And also because he was born under a neem tree. So this is Mahaprabhu's childhood name.
Well covered.
Nimai, yes. Vishvambara and Nimai. And then, as he grew, he quickly became recognized as a genius scholar, prodigious intellect. What is the word for you can hear something once and memorize it forever? What's the Sanskrit word for that? I forget, it doesn't come to me right now. Shrutidara, that's it. Shrutidara. You can hear something once and you hold. Dara means to hold, to contain it. Shruti, you hear it and you hold on to it forever. Shrutidara. So then he became Nimai Pandit, Nimai the scholar. And then when he was some 21 years old, he goes to Gaya to perform the Shraddha ceremony for his departed father. And he meets one person called Ishwarapuri. And he meets Ishwarapuri, and a powerful epiphany takes place. He is transformed from the scholar Nimai Pandit to the devotee Nimai Pandit. And he returns to Navadvip displaying symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna. And all of the devotees of Navadvip, who are sober, educated, intelligent men, older, many of them, they recognize him as the Yuga avatar and as Krishna himself descended. And Mahaprabhu begins his Sankirtan movement, Krishna Kirtan, Kirtana Deva Krishnasya. He begins his Sankirtan movement, spilling out onto the streets of Navadvip with mridanga and kartal. And also nocturnal kirtans, all night, kirtan all night, until just before dawn. So the ecstatic wave, like a fountain, the floodgates of Krishna Kirtana opened. And we see the realization of this one method of amnesty, not just amnesty, but not just the freedom of papa, sin, but also a benediction of the highest type begins at this time. Nityananda Prabhu arrives. And Nityananda Prabhu, he distributes Mahaprabhu's prem, the mercy. And together the Sankirtan movement starts. So he is the Kali Yuga avatar, the most powerful and effective method for spiritual development in the age of Kali. Can be chanted anywhere, anytime. Krishna Kirtan. So that's what this place is about. And this is Gauranga Mahaprabhu is here to distribute that. Another 5 minutes?
Yeah, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Actually, the puja is just getting ready.
Okay.
But it's about superstition. And how we hear that actually everything can be harmonized, cast off by chanting the holy name and do kirtan. Everything will be annulled in terms of bad energy and all these things. So, knowing that, how can we understand some of the things we hear about superstition? And should we, as far as I understand, we shouldn't really be so concerned with it, right?
Yes, not so concerned with it. I mean, there is a scale of what is to be considered superstitious. And some of it is just a collective, you could say, collective psychological disorder, in a sense. Some of it is what certain cultures believe to be a bad omen, for instance. Like, what triggered this realization, this thought in me, was a few years ago watching a documentary where there's this people that live in Southeast Asia in the upper reaches of I think it's the Mekong River. It runs down through Southeast Asia, through Laos, maybe Cambodia, Vietnam, like that. I think it's the Mekong. In the upper reaches, the headlands of the Mekong, there are tribes that live up there. And they're doing a documentary on these tribes, kind of on the border between China and Burma and going down into Laos. And they have a superstition that if twins are born, then it's a tremendous curse. It's a curse for the whole tribe. And it has a devastating effect psychologically on them. There's mourning and weeping, and they don't know what to do with the children. The children almost cast out, abandoned. So it causes great suffering and trauma to not only the tribe, but also the children. A complete superstition. In their ignorance, they've decided that something, which is something of an anomaly, but still perfectly natural, harmless, is actually a cause of great harm and danger. So there are some superstitions like that which are completely baseless. It may have started at some point in history where some poor woman had twins and, the neighbor's house burnt down or something, coincidentally at the same time. So they've all decided, twins, problems. Anjali's got twins, nothing happened.
I do. I have to.
Yes.
Everything is okay.
Yes. So that's just one example, and I'm sure we could ask any anthropologist worth their salt, and they could come up with dozens of other examples from cultures around the world, where there's superstitions of certain things, both negative and positive, that don't really have any basis in reality. Even in this Mayic reality, there's no basis for it. Because we live in an environment which is fundamentally illusory, it's changing, it's prone more to, its default position is one of mistaken notions and beliefs rather than a providing of clarity. If Maya is to do anything, it's to produce misguidance rather than proper guidance. That's always the tendency of Maya. And that's why when real truth comes in to the Mayic environment, immediately it comes under attack. Immediately it begins to get eroded and decayed. And so Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanyad bhavati bharata. From time to time I need to come again to refresh it, because the truth is constantly being eroded, because there's this anti-truth environment. So my belief is that most superstitions are either partly or wholly this product of the anti-truth environment. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says more recently that devotees, they don't indulge in superstition. They don't indulge in superstition. Whatever is due, they're prepared to accept that. And they accept it with anukul, with a favorable attitude. Tat tenu kampam susamikshamano punjane vadma kripam vipakam. Kridbag, but we know the famous sloka. So with a favorable attitude, you accept what's been given to you as a perfect prescription. You've generated it. It's perfect for you, to educate you, to show you the consequences of your actions. It's like going to a doctor's today. You go to a doctor and they'll just match your symptom to a particular medicine. Oh, you've got this, here's your medicine. But in previous times, the doctor would analyze you and they would look at what is exactly wrong with you. Not just match a set of symptoms to a pharmaceutical product. They would find out what is wrong with you uniquely and they'd tailor-make a medical product. They'd formulate a product specifically for you. Perfect medicine. You can't get any better than that. A generic medicine may do something, but a tailor-made medicine specific to your problem, that's going to have the most powerful curative effect. So karma is like that. Karma is tailor-made by divine consciousness, or by natural consciousness. Perfect for you. Not one single minutest error in the formula. Perfect for you. So the Bhagavatam says, Tatteno kampam susamikshramano. Just accept this fact, that it's a perfect prescription for you, and work with that. Superstition is an idea that something bad can happen which is not supposed to happen. It's a fear that, maybe it's not supposed to happen. But when one accepts that their karmic circumstance is perfect for them, it is that tailor-made medicine. It is that perfect Ayurvedic Vaidya, Kaviraj, from a bygone era. He would take your pulse and, you need this and this and this. Yeah. And he'd prepare it up with herbs from the mountain behind. And you would be cured. So your karmic circumstance is like that. It's like the perfect medicine. And with that realization, there's not really any room for superstition or irrational fears. Whatever will come, and it will be good for you. There's no pain that's permanent. No misfortune that's permanent. And to allow that, to be superstitious, is a weak position. From another angle, it's not accepting the guardianship of the Lord. And the basic premise of Bhakti is Sharanagati. And the most important limb of Sharanagati is embracing the guardianship of Krishna, known as Goptritvi Varana. Embracing the guardianship of the Lord. Where is room for superstition? When you have embraced the guardianship of the Lord. What are you going to be superstitious about? You can have maybe some positive superstition, perhaps, that Krishna is going to do something really special. It's quite likely. I don't think there's much room for negative superstition. Goptrit Vivarana. And as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in general, devotees don't dally in superstition. It tends to be a hindrance. Not only psychologically speaking. I mean, today if you go to what is that book where they've listed all the psychiatric disorders? It's like called I forget what it's called, but no. It's a big fat book compiled by the Psychiatric Association of America. And it's a database that lists all the symptoms and the corresponding name of it's a reductionist approach, but the superstition is, if it gets too out of control, then it was characterized as like something like schizophrenia or a schizotypal or something like that. So it's characterized these days as a psychiatric disorder. So even from that prosaic perspective, it's not considered helpful. Magical thinking that, something unusual, something that is outside of the normal action-reaction dynamic of this world is going to happen, either good or bad. It's generally not helpful for progress. I remember reading a story in the newspaper of one. So certain cultures are more prone to it seems, maybe. One Brazilian woman, she was walking home from work. She had a successful career as a lawyer. She's walking home from work, and she sees an old lady looking out of the window at the second floor at her, staring at her as walking past. And she convinces herself that this old lady gave her the evil eye and that she's now been cursed. And this thought took hold in her consciousness, and it grew, and it sabotaged her. So she started to self-sabotage as a result of a false and highly destructive superstition. And it caused her so much stress that she couldn't sleep, couldn't go to work, lost her job, got evicted from her home. Relationship broke up. Life fell to bits, all because an old lady looked at her from a second floor window. So generally the superstition is best avoided. But, for a devotee it's not really a concern at all, considering it's Goptrit Vivarana. That said, Goptrit Vivarana is not a cheap thing. It's not a cheap thing, because it is essentially premised on not having any other source of protection. If we seek succor and solace in the outside world, whatever it be, money, or whatever, money is a big, people chase the money because it provides them with a sense of security. So to the degree that we are sourcing our security from other factors, well, conversely, to that same degree, we will not have Goptrit Vivarana. Conversely, to that same degree. So it's not a cheap thing. It's not a cheap thing. And, practically speaking, we all have bodies. We all have minds. And just as the body malfunctions, the mind can malfunction as well. It's just part and parcel. The intellect can malfunction. The ego can malfunction. All of these layers, bodies that cover the Atma, they're all subject to malfunction. The Atma itself does not malfunction. But when it misidentifies with Maya, then we have malfunction. We have superstition, disease, death, all of these unnatural experiences. And the beginning of liberation from that is to find one's solace and protection in the spiritual realm. In this place where there is no iniquity, there is no temporariness, there is no death, disease, withering away, fears, all of these unnatural experiences that one is forced to experience when they think themselves to be something they're not. Yes, superstition. Not that practical steps are not taken as well. Perhaps your question was based on Sachi calling her son Nimai. So certain things are necessary. I mean, a balance common sense is always required. When Param Gurudev was born, he had an elder sibling that also died young. And so they also took protective measures to prevent any malevolent psychic activity. So there's some truth to it. It's not superstition in that sense. Superstition generally means fear of something that's not true. So if one is psychically aware, then they can take measures just as you would to protect your physical body. You can also take measures to protect your psychic body. If that answers the question.
Definitely. I've also been...
So I wouldn't, sorry, just to finish. Yeah. I wouldn't describe that as superstition. That is they were aware, being Brahmins, they were aware of living a very pure lifestyle. One's consciousness becomes fine, so they're not just aware of what's happening physically. Someone who's governed by their senses is generally just rooted in the physical. They don't know much about what's happening in the subtle realms. But someone who lives a very sattvic life, they're able to pick up on subtler energies. So they're able to know what's harmful and what's positive. They're able to work with that. So they develop methodologies and techniques to do that. It's not superstition. It's just enhanced awareness of the subtle energies of the environment.
It's when someone who doesn't understand these things copies it or tries to imitate it, then it becomes something like superstition.
True. Yes. Yes, absolutely. What were you going to say?
I've also heard it to be part of Leela, right? Like that idea that consideration for these kinds of things, that it's actually a type of expression for, it's part of the Leela that enhances certain rasa.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a parallel has been drawn between the birth of Mahaprabhu and the birth of Krishna, with the 8 daughters of Devaki killed by Kamsa. Well, all except number 8, I think, when Devaki was in the prison cell in Mathura. All the 8 daughters killed, or except the last one, Yogamaya or Mahamaya, she escapes. So the parallel is drawn that the eight daughters of Sachimata, they pass away. And then number 9 is Vishvarup, Mahaprabhu's older brother, who takes sannyas when he's 12 or something. Yeah, so everything to do with Mahaprabhu is Leela. Sometimes it's difficult to draw sort of, if it is Leela, then we can draw mundane instruction from it, but it's not the highest level of appreciation. It's not the highest perspective. It's an unfortunate trend these days, actually, to go, life lessons from the Bhagavad Gita, life lessons from the Bhagavatam. Use the Bhagavatam to improve your relationship. You can use the Bhagavatam to increase your discipline and make some more money. Use the Bhagavatam to solve this problem. So it's like a base level kind of appreciation of Shastra. Considering what it has to offer, you take it and you try and... Actually, for a devotee, it's a little distasteful to take the Shastra. It's quite popular these days, even unfortunately in Gaudiya Vaishnava circles. See people dressed in saffron with very, very paka tilak, very straight lines. And they're talking about how to use the Shastra to improve all of these material aspirations, relationships, money, health, all of these, what you deem as like normal, mundane, material aspirations. And they're taking Shastra and they're dragging it down. Look, you can use this. It's like using a very fine instrument as a hammer or something. It may do the job, but it's an absolute underappreciation. It's an absolute misuse of something. And Guru Maharaj, he touches on that. And he says actually it's often that spiritually speaking, it's counterproductive. You may get some material benefit short term, but spiritually speaking, if you go into that realm and you take something from there and try to use it for a lower purpose, that is kind of aparad. That is a transgression. So it's unfortunate actually. It may deliver some short-term results to take something from a subtler spiritual plane, harness it for a lower purpose. You may get some short-term results. But long-term, it's generally considered to be counterproductive. But unfortunately, again, it's a trend. Kali Yuga, we will see more and more of this. Look at how I can help you. That what is supposed to be delivery of Krishna Prem simply becomes a self-help kind of, a funky sort of new self-help type. Check out, this way to improve your life using the Bhagavad Gita. Someone asked this one person, no names, no names. Someone asked this one preacher, tell me about the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, well, first of all, you absolutely must not think of it as a spiritual work. Just forget that. Let's just look at it, how it can help us here, like in our practical lives. So immediately it's compromising the core principles of the Gita. Manmana bhava madbhakto majji sarvadaman parityadya. Immediate violation of the very core of the Gita. Let's forget about that. Let's talk about how we can exploit it. Improve your relationship. Make some more money, etc. But unfortunately, this is the way spiritual things go in Kali Yuga. It's very important to constantly revisit the very spirit of what one is doing. Otherwise, dilution, mission drift, all of these things can take place. Jai Gauranga Prabhu! Haribol!
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 Yeah.
How's it going? All right, it's Aarti time.
Gaur Haribol! down again.
Yashomati Nandana Vajavarana Yashomati Nandana Vajavarana Gosula Ramjana Kana
Acharya Krishna ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paraj Shishma Jagaguru Bhakti Sundar Swami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paraj Shishma Kulchamani Savsas Sundar Bhakti Rakshmi Hare Swami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paraj Shishma Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Samsar Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Shri Gokshas Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Vishnu Om Vishnu Pad Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Thakur ki jai. Jai Vishnu Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Shri Sadhguru Shri Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Guru Bhakti ki jai. Thakur ki jai. Jai Rasasvati Raghunath Gita Bhava Rasasvati Satya Sangha Guru ki jai. Satya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Rabbanadhara ki jai. Jai Vishnu Renu Om Vishnu Pad Shri Aisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Prince Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shri Shri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Champur Radha Guru ki jai. Ki jai. Ki jai. Shri ki jai. Ki jai. Shri Purushottam Chakridam ki jai. Shri ki jai. Ki jai. Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Navadip Shri Saraswati ki jai. Saraswati ki jai. Saraswati ki jai. Acharya Krishna ki jai. Sangai Vaishnava Mandir ki jai. Gokar ki jai. Ki jai. Ki jai. Joy Shri Gadadhar Goswami Hari Prabhu ki jai. Ki jai.